Disclaimer. This video is made for entertainment purpose only, it doesn't mean to hurt anyone, and don't take it seriously.
Offend all you wrestling fans. Play fighting. You know, it's stunt work and play fighting. All right, we're live with MC during a massive power outage at his studio location.
Hurricane residual. Whatever the hurricane's name is, but we're getting the residual where I'm at.
So,
and I can't open my fridge again because I only did it once because I was I could bring my food home.
Do not open your fridge for 24 hours.
Is that what they say? 24 hours?
I don't know. I have to do for a power outage. Your fridge should be good for at least 24 hours.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
You'll be fine.
What happens if you open the door?
You let all the cold air out. So you open up real fast.
Yes.
You open up and you slam it in there.
Now it's 12 hours.
So now you need to know what's in there. Just take a mental picture and then close it. And then
I would only be drinking warm water.
I need the milk. And just shut the door real fast.
Be fasting, except
because you have air conditioning right now. Is it no air conditioning then?
No, but it's like it's not like it's like a mug fest. It's been slowly drizzling and stuff, but that's not the problem. Just having no electricity is going back to the Stone Age.
What else do you have in there that uses electricity other than your lights and your refrigerator?
Fan. That would be nice.
Just run around.
Recording a podcast, birds and crickets chirping.
According to AI, when the power outage, your refrigerator can keep your food safe for up to 4 hours. I was off by 20 hours.
Jeez.
If the door is kept closed as much as possible, a full freezer can maintain a safe temperature for 48 hours. So you can throw it in there. Well, half full freezers can do 24 hours. That's where I was getting 24 hours. Keep the door closed. Keep the refrigerator freezer doors closed. You don't have a thermometer, I'm assuming. You don't have dry ice. Throw out any perishables after 4 hours without power. You should be okay. I don't see you having a whole lot of perishables. You don't have like a huge ham in there or something, do you?
No, just I wouldn't have bought probably the shit I bought if I knew I was coming home.
Yeah, that's right. You just went to the grocery store too. Wow. Talk about fate.
Fucking shit.
All right. Well, this podcast is going to be kind of boring because we can't show any clips from WWE because they will block us and they won't even let us use it. But I did sit down and watch the entire series of Mr. McMahon.
I'm surprised you watched the whole thing so quickly. It took me like 2 days to do it.
It took me 2 days.
Yeah.
So I was interested, but I will let you give your review first. And then I will probably disagree. So if you want, if you want,
I only agree with you on one episode, and that is it. There will be no other agreements, just Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's it.
In the Gary Coleman show. So, anyways,
I've never seen that.
Please give us your thoughts on Mr. McMahon, the Netflix documentary that just came out on Wednesday.
Well, I jotted down some notes, but it basically it's in 6 parts. Starts with Junior, which is, you know, his childhood into meeting his dad and such. It goes to Heat, where he starts. I mean, I think that kind of shows how he becomes a heel and stuff too. But Heat also shows a lot of his scandals in there, which might be why his right hand man for many years, Bruce Pritchard, kind of got mad. But I'll talk about that, you know, after I run these down. Screw job. I think they kind of show both Wendy Richter and Bret Hart screw, you know, where he screwed them both over. Wendy Richter definitely, I don't think there's no question that was not, you know, that was a shoot, not a work, as they call it in wrestling. There are still people that believe that Bret and Vince were orchestrated the thing, but it's kind of hard like, why is Bret still on it now? So, I think.
What do you mean orchestrated? Orchestrated.
Where like they claim it was a screw job, but it really wasn't. Like they were all in on it. The thing is that there was only Michaels, Vince.
You do find it weird though that Bret Hart came back to WWE later.
Yeah, I mean,
supposedly if he was so betrayed, why would he show back up?
I mean, he talked about his legacy preserving at the time he had a stroke and stuff. So there are reasons to believe that still it is a legit shoot. I mean, it feels like it definitely could have been after looking at how he had a documentary recording everything. They never actually show the punch to Vince. But
you could tell. You could tell he got hit though.
Yeah, I mean,
you could see the mark on his face.
Yeah, plus they're witnesses, so all those witnesses are going to say he didn't get hit. So yeah, I mean, there's that select, like we talk about. There's that select group of people that think everything is a work. But after Screwjob, there's the Attitude Era. They kind of go through all that stuff, and they chronicle the Attitude Era. I think could have been where they showed Owen Hart and Chris Benoit may have been in the.
That was in the other one.
Ruthless Aggression. They were talking about.
Yeah.
Owen may have been Attitude Era for sure because he died during that. But yeah, next second to last one was Family Business. They talk a lot about Shane there and Stephanie. A lot more focus seemed to be on Shane, and then the finish was kind of just jot down a lot of notes from that. But that was pretty much like the wrap up of his winding down of his career. That may have been the Ruthless Aggression stuff, but yeah. With the notes, just like they talk about Jesse's Union coup, or where Hogan kind of rats him out, and that's kind of been common knowledge. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of wrestling fans and even casual ones would know, but some of the stuff I did know was that the WWF or WWF was to be sold to Gorilla Monsoon, and it may have been said before, but I didn't remember that. So that was kind of interesting little tidbit there that Gorilla was going to actually, and who knows what would have happened then, because I don't think Gorilla would have taken it nationwide or worldwide, but that was kind of neat to learn that. The whole series in general, but I think especially early on, is definitely the historic kind of look into the WWF. So even if you just hated McMahon for everything and anything he stood for, pretty much, if you're a WWF, WWE fan, you're taking down a basically nostalgia look at everything going back from his days to to current day, and they show a lot of his early clipped little pictures of his stuff that kind of nobody's really seen and stuff, because this was supposed to be just a normal kind of WWE type style documentary. They had access, I think, to everything, but what happened with his scandal stuff, then they talk about a lot of the stuff that the scandal made him step down and stuff. But I don't think that was really the focus of it. So when because in one of the episodes right near the end, Bruce Pritchard talked about, I watched it because they said, and he just didn't like it, how they portray, but I don't think they portrayed him any more horrible than he actually was. I mean, Phil Mushnick talked about how he was a dirt bag, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff McMahon probably did to cover it up because he invested a lot of money. So did he cover up Snuka's accident with his quote unquote accident with his girlfriend? I mean, that seems pretty likely. They didn't delve too much into that, but a lot of the people, if you would have interviewed them honestly, without this being like it was at the time, they probably would have said maybe nastier things about him. But surprisingly, most of the people who talked about Trish Stratus and all the other people that could have said, "Oh, he made me bark like a dog. He's a horrible person." Trish actually said stuff like, "We got you," kind of deal. Like she said, "That's how we were supposed to make you feel, is feel bad for me, and then I get my comeuppance basically at WrestleMania." She did talk about how she was probably punished for not wanting to kiss Mickey James, I think is what that was alluding to. So she lost it. When I thought that was weird too. I was at WrestleMania 22 and I didn't think Trish was going to lose, but that was a little interesting. So they talk about a lot of that stuff with how people were screwed over and and some of the payback you get in wrestling. But the thing with the female referee, I never knew anything about that. I think her name was Chatterton. The thing that probably made him look the worst was when he said, even if there was a quote unquote rape, he said the statute of limitations would have passed. That was probably a good look.
Probably talking about.
Probably shouldn't have said that. That was a little weird. That was probably about the weirdest thing he said that I thought that made him look like a scum.
He also said that
maybe
his
you're gonna.
character was a character, and then afterwards he was like, I don't know what the line is between character and who I really am, starting to get blurred. It just all started to sound like he was just babbling nonsense. That's
The sex thing you talked about, I'm thinking about sex now. Like, that's just creepy, dude. Even if you are like
yeah.
that, yeah, that's stuff I would have stayed away from. Um, yeah, that was just bizarre. Or maybe they wouldn't have put that in, or maybe they wouldn't have been fishing for that. But I think the other thing that kind of was telling that he kind of admits, because they do kind of press him, like, hey, listen, you're talking about Ted Turner buying up all your stars and doing that, but right at the beginning of the series, he basically buys up all the stars of everybody in the territory, and they kind of finally push him, and he admits and says, well, there's certain things you say that
he said, listen, there's a difference. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. He's trying to hurt me. He's trying to hurt my business. And it's like, whatever, dude.
No, he finally
you did exactly the same.
Yeah, he did the same shit that happened to him. So he kind of was getting what he deserved, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and he admits it, kind of like some things you say. He was probably trying to say there are some things you say for the sake of painting a picture for, because he was trying to be the baby face in it. And WCW was the heels. They were the bad guys, you know. I'm just looking at my last things. Yeah, the other couple things, the finish, I think the last episode was a little all over the place. And that's where they kind of, some of the stuff on there said, he calls Undertaker traumatized from the finish, not from a concussion. That I think was a little fucked up. But
funny.
Yeah, he said
the funniest shit is Undertaker's like, I don't think I've ever gotten a concussion, and they show him do a swanton out of the ring, and you see the dent of the pad where his head just drilled into the mat.
Deuce, I think, was supposed to catch him. Snuka's son.
Dude, he just
run to catch him.
There's a dent in the pad, perfect shape of your freaking head, and you're like, I don't think I've ever gotten any concussions other than that one. Oh yeah, and then they show that video, and he's like, just head first right into the mat.
Yeah, or the pictures of him getting hit by a chair. It's just ridiculous.
That's what wrestling is. Oh yeah, I'm sure you didn't get any concussions, just getting smashed in the head with a chair twice in a match.
The stuff
his eyes are crossed as he's talking.
The stuff that I thought was kind of ridiculous too, with he talks about like just Benoit going crazy. Sometimes people just go crazy. I don't know if he's trying to protect the business and stuff probably at that point, but like Chris Nowinski keeps saying that he had
here's his brain. Here's his brain. Let's just show you some videos of his brain. It's all splattered with all these little holes spots.
Yeah, it's just like he's saying this guy had dementia. He had CTE.
Yeah, I don't know if we looked at the right brain or not. Yeah, they showed it, man. It looked like a road map. So
this was said on a podcast, I think, that one of the WCW wrestlers was on who knew Benoit and his wife, I think, from their time in WCW and such. He thought, and this is what I kind of tend to believe, this is just a theory, obviously, now, but he said they were into wild, like, kinky stuff, like, which would include, like, kind of choking during the middle of, like, sex and stuff. So it got to the point where it seems likely that is probably what happened. Like, perhaps he killed her in the middle of one of their rough sessions, and that's what he said. And then he didn't know what to do. Maybe his brain's fucked up at that point, obviously, to kill your son at whatever point he did in that weekend, they said. Or what, I don't know if that was determined which day he did that, just, and smothered him, whatever. That was where maybe he went, but he didn't know what to do because of the shame and guilt. That's what I think probably happened, because obviously he would have, if he had her tied up during that shit, maybe he would have tried to do something with the body at that point. I don't know. But that seems to make a little more sense, considering everybody said this was a nice guy. He didn't, Vince's thing, he just snapped. I think something maybe along the lines of those happened, and he didn't know what to do. His brain was fucked up, obviously. And that's what I think really happened.
Yeah, who knows?
That's just my speculation on that. But we'll never know, because the one who really knows is dead.
Yeah.
And then just to wrap it up, just just the Shane stuff was like they really went into kind of just emotional return. That was kind of cool to see, and then they kind of went with his relationship with Vince, and then it was just great. It just tripped down memory lane. A lot of great footage to enjoy, and it was weird when they showed the last little bit of footage where he comes back with a porn star with a mustache. He looks kind of totally different. Like we talked about that in other episodes with Ramrock and stuff. But yeah, the Ashley Mazzaro stuff was really bizarre. That was sad because he did humiliate her on camera, saying you're going to cry, whatever, and she really was raped. That was just a horrible situation that they tried to cover up over in the Middle East, where they did the tribute to the troops. And yeah, I think most of the people, it was kind of cool to see Tony Atlas kind of not really in the character where he was playing like a goof and stuff. I thought he kind of came off out of maybe everybody the most sensible, saying, hey, this is how the wrestling business is. And I think he came off the most honest out of everybody in the documentary. But I don't know. What did you think?
All right. My take on the whole thing. If anybody's out there hasn't seen this yet, skip to the last episode.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about for scandalous purposes? If you want to see the controversy?
Just go straight to episode 6, and you will learn something that you didn't already know. If you follow wrestling and you follow WWF, WWE, WCW, they didn't go into much about ECW. If you follow wrestling from probably from the 80s on, you know exactly all this information. You know most of this shit. What I felt like I was watching was the history of the WWF and how Vince McMahon created, took over, struggled, and changed the world of wrestling. And I think Paul Heyman said it the best. He has a monogamy relationship with one thing, and that's wrestling. Everything else, he doesn't have any faith with. He doesn't trust. He fucks over people, even his family, and it pretty much showed. Also, during the show, I couldn't stop staring at his lips, and they were blue. He had blue lips. I don't know why they were blue, but his lips were blue, and it just looks. He looked very old, and it's funny how the show transferred. Like when they went 2022, everybody from 2019 all looked like they aged about 10 years. Like some of those people looked like they got older quick. So what I'm watching is everything I already knew. It's just in one documentary. And it really wasn't a documentary about Mr. McMahon. First episode, you talk about Mr. McMahon. And of course, his dad was a wrestling promoter and he didn't know his dad. And of course, they build this story that he was abused. Mr. McMahon was abused. Vince McMahon was abused. He struggled. He wanted his dad's recognition. He wanted his dad to approve of him. He wanted all this shit. Fast forward. Hold on. My dogs are banging on the damn door. All right.
Shut up.
So you're never going to get the business. Okay. Anyways.
I'm recording the podcast.
You're never going to get my podcasting business, even if you try. Stick the knife here. Put the knife right in my chest.
How he described it, like, you're going to have to stab me right here.
You're going to have to kill me. So anyways, so we go into this. That's episode 6, right?
Yeah, I think
that's what I mean. So if you really want to watch something, watch episode 6.
Well, 2
in the middle of it,
the scandals too, like the steroid.
But you knew about the fucking scandals.
Yeah.
You knew about the court cases. You knew Hulk Hogan testified. You knew Hulk Hogan went to WCW. You already knew all this shit. We've already been down. We've already been down this road.
In a docu-series of 6 episodes, they're not going to be telling you 6 episodes of shit you never knew about Mr.
Then give
McMahon.
me 3. Give me 3 episodes. Don't make me fucking sit through 5 to get to something that I don't know. Piece of shit.
This was basically, like you said, this was a Vince half
It
narrated.
wasn't though. It started off with it painted this picture of Vince, but then it just went straight into fucking wrestling, which we already knew that his dad ran we already knew it. We already knew his dad ran it. We already knew it.
Kind of a retrospective, like you said, of the history of WWF, WWE as kind of half narrated by Vince McMahon, because he's peppered in talking about the stuff that they're showing you.
And then the shit he's talking about, you could just tell he's not telling you the whole truth. He's like, I'm only going to tell you enough to make it interesting. I'm only going to do this. It's just kind of like, And then they kept putting in the little Easter eggs of this was recorded before all those things came out and all this shit. Obviously, there's been scandals already in the past. It's not like this is fucking new. So we're watching this episode on Netflix and you're thinking, what am I going to learn that if I'm a wrestling fan, I don't already know? I already know this shit.
Not much. Unfortunately, yeah.
I've seen it in the news. Yeah. They've already had episodes of this shit already. They've already done stuff like this documentary wise. They've already done CBS reported about wrestling. Access Hollywood already talked about wrestling scandals. I mean, we already knew this fucking shit.
There's been a Mr. McMahon DVD. There was also a McMahon versus Austin, which probably dealt into the stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you can watch that stuff on the network.
Tell me then, other than all these guys who got into professional wrestling, which is basically, in my eyes, and my dad was to hug me and tell me he's proud of me. It's like you're 50 years old and that's what you wanted. So if I'm just telling anybody out there, if you want to watch this, just go to episode 6. Watch episode 6. And then if you have 5 hours to fucking burn, then watch 1 through 5. Because I'll tell you this right now.
Sounds like a person who was forced to watch it at gunpoint.
Because all you learned, and again, if you know nothing about the business, you know nothing about WWF, you don't know nothing about professional wrestling, then go and watch all of it. And then fucking watch other professional wrestling documentaries. Watch it all. I think the wrestler documentary with Al Snow was fucking better than this. This didn't tell us anything that we don't already know.
The wrestler? You're talking about the one with OVW in it? Wrestlers, yeah.
Yeah, that was better than this. This didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. It didn't tell us. Episode 6 told us a bunch of shit because in the middle of this documentary, all this other shit was going on. And then they were trying to cover it up and come back. And then he comes back with that little porn mustache and then he's gone again. And then his daughter quits in the middle of like that stuff. You didn't know. You didn't know that she quit WWE when he came back and was part of the board or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you're saying everybody knows the other stuff, they would know that stuff too, though.
I didn't know that.
A hardcore wrestling fan would know that,
right? Because you're still into it, right?
Yeah.
But again, I agree. Here's what I will tell you that I've told you and Rocky this forever: is that the Attitude Era was probably the best year of WWE. During WWF's Attitude Era, it probably was the best time. And then what they said, they were reaching out to that market, that 18 to 30-some-year-old group, which would have been me. And so that was the best time to be a wrestling fan, because then WCW was trying to one-up them. ECW was getting out there too. So all of that time was fun to watch, because it was edgy and shit.
Yeah, my golden age is the stuff they showed at the beginning. So maybe it hit me in the feels of nostalgia, vein or whatever you call it. That kind of started it off early on for that.
I grew up watching the AWA and all that stuff. I grew up watching it, but no one made you go out and fucking feel like it's a concert, like a rock concert, like Raw.
Yeah.
That's when it changed.
But Saturday night's main event, the WrestleMania early 1 through 3. It goes and stuff. That's the stuff I got hooked on as a kid,
right? But we all watched wrestling then. But then, you were just watching Saturday morning wrestling with AWA, or you were watching Saturday Night Fever with WWF. You were watching that, and it was kind of just like, oh, it's wrestling. I'm going to see Coco Beware versus Jimmy Fly Snuka. That. But when it got real edgy and shit started getting kind of like they were battling each other, that's when that's when it became more interesting to watch it as an adult, because you were carrying all those adults in.
But a lot of the wrestling fans just have I mean, like him or hate him, whatever, you have a lot to thank for him because he did take it to a national scale where this could have just been
what am I thanking him for?
Because this problem would wrestling have even, how would it be perceived now if he didn't take it on a, I'm not saying like,
Dude,
all right, go out and think.
The media took it to the next level. Pay-per-view, cable. When cable became a thing, cable.
Everything he did invested in to make it what it is. I'm not saying this is some guy of moral high character. I'm saying without McMahon's influence and whatever he did to get it to this point, even through using the ECW Attitude Era, wrestling is what it is because of this man.
Exactly.
It's just wrestling. Yeah, it is. But he turned it into something, to a next level, and people can hate him now, or he is a scumbag.
I don't even fucking care. That's the thing about it. I don't know what the point of this documentary was. I don't know what the point was. It supposed to talk about the history of McMahon?
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be a scandalous one, though. I think they paint it like that because that's what he's known for in the media right now. But this
not even right now.
Supposed to be. Well, yeah, I know, but like
even back in the fucking late 80s, early 90s, there was shit going on.
Yeah, I mean,
they focused on WWF during the steroid thing because steroids was a big deal then. Steroids became a big deal during that time. And who else?
I think they touched on a few different scandals in that episode, really. That kind of
but then they talked about the abuse, and then they talked about drug use, and then all of a sudden it started becoming like wrestlers dying. But again, we don't know why they're dying. We don't know what the fuck happened. We don't know if there were any sexual abuses and stuff. This is all stuff that's come out. Again.
Well, I don't think too many people know the in-depth Ring Boy scandal. The stuff
I didn't know that. That's
what I mean. Like that stuff that isn't common knowledge to the casual fan. So there's a lot of things peppered in. Maybe a casual fan may not know. So
do you think
a lot of the stuff that we knew?
So do you think that Vince McMahon knew that this is what was gonna happen?
He tried to buy this. I heard, so it didn't come out, and they wouldn't sell it to him. But after watching it, especially after what you're saying too, because you got obviously your own perspective and I got mine. But there's really not much. Like, yeah, it kind of touches on some of the even seedier parts of him, but this isn't a guy of high moral character. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of stuff because of this is what this guy did, and he helped wrestling get to this level. He took it from here, that up to here. We know this. Everybody knows that this wrestling isn't what it is without him. Most of the other stuff, you kind of know that he was a seedy person. He even if he's saying I was playing a character or whatever, yeah, but you're in a church and cutting, poor taste stuff and wrestling against God and Shawn Michaels. Yeah, that's not a.
Here's what CBS Sports wrote about it. So those unfamiliar with the intimate details about McMahon's personal business life will receive a thorough education. I agree.
Yeah.
Die-hard wrestling fans will be familiar with nearly all the stories and controversies, though there are still enough nuggets of information and revelations to make McMahon a more than worthwhile watch.
Yeah, that's accurate. I think so.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Go straight to episode 6. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know everything about it, then go to episode 6.
You didn't care. You're a casual fan, maybe at best. You didn't care to probably see all that stuff because I have seen the documentary. I've seen them all. But it's a pretty cool. It's got a lot of footage and old footage flashing all the time. You could blink and you miss something. If you want to get that kind of nostalgic, hey, I wanted the history of WWF. Yeah, that's what probably this should be called, through the eyes of Vince McMahon. More than this is just Vince McMahon and the scan, but they're using it as the lure to get, hey, the scandalous Mr. McMahon. It's basically the history of WWF as it pertains to Vince McMahon. It's pretty much it. Yeah. So, that's what it is.
It's the rise and maybe the fall of WWE.
Yeah. Or Vince McMahon.
Because it pretty much was, this is how he got started. And then again, when you listen to Shane McMahon talk, it sounds a lot like his dad. But then you find out his dad basically likes Stephanie McMahon better because she's more like him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
And then Shane McMahon doesn't like that. So he's trying to do things to live up to his dad so his dad will be proud of him. That's sad.
the parallels of him and his dad, like he took WWF at the time, I think they had already transitioned to the 3 Fs or 2 Fs, not 3. But yeah, he wanted to take that to someplace. And then Vince says, his dad at the end
I will tell you that
was proud of him.
I will tell you that. I didn't know he was supposed to buy UFC. I didn't know that was a thing either.
Well, that's what Shane wanted to do. And then that was the thing. Like his dad didn't want to do it. But I think that story that Heyman told with him killing me to take it over, here's the knife, whatever. Yeah, that was obviously a little extreme, so to speak, no pun intended. But that's what I think he was trying to tell us on. If you had the money to buy this and do it, obviously I don't have the money to buy it.
I liked it when he said that. He said, you go take your money and buy it. I thought that's just so fucking dad. Yeah. Take your money and buy me UFC, and then I will show you how good I am at running it. That was funny. That just sounds so much like a spoiled kid. It's not funny.
I think he was trying to tell him, hey, this is a good investment, and it would have been. But
it just sounds like a spoiled kid, though. Hey, Dad, guess what? I know what I'm doing. All you got to do is buy me a multi-million-dollar company, and then I will show you how I make it work. That just sounds like a spoiled child. I mean, it just sounds like all you got to do is buy me a car, and I'll show you.
Use your money to make the investment, and we will both reap the rewards.
Yeah, use your money, and then I will make money, and then I'll be rich like you. That just sounded so dumb.
Sounds like every son's dream of investment.
It just sounds so. Really, he didn't have any money from any of this shit you've been doing. So
I mean, he would have, but he probably didn't have it. I mean, maybe his wife, Marissa Marzullo, would have strangled him the way Vince wanted to strangle Hulk Hogan. That was the other thing I laughed at. Like, sometimes you frustrated me to the point where I wanted to strangle him. Like,
when he was talking to the news guy, he's like, I'm just picturing myself like putting my hands around his throat.
Well, but when he talked about Hulk, when they're asking him his thoughts on Hulk Hogan, yeah, sure. Sometimes there were points where I wanted to strangle him. Like, he saved you from. He could have lied under oath, and he could have put you behind bars. Yeah,
could have just thrown you to the wolves.
He stopped the union, and you should be still kissing Hulk Hogan's ass.
Yeah, all I think about is that this show. I wish I had 5 hours back from the 6 hour. That's all I gotta say. I wish I had.
There's worse things you can watch.
No, I don't think so.
Especially some of the stuff you've said on there, like some of the other movies from the 80s. Like if you can watch, what the hell is that, Rad Day or some of the other weird shit.
Rad is fucking awesome.
Some of the other weird things you recommended.
Rad from the 80s? Rad is bad. I've never even seen that. The BMX bike. Again, you were not privy. Your life, well, obviously you grew up.
You are slightly older.
You watch cockroaches in a jar, and your dad put them on there like television for you, and it's like, watch these, and you're like, oh, look at them.
I was on the ground floor of when Atari and Nintendo came out. That was a big part of my childhood.
You're on the ground floor. I was in the war room when they were creating the games. I remember when they created tennis, and I was like, let's try to do it this way, and then it became successful.
The greatest Atari games of all time.
All right. Well, I didn't think this show was that good. I am a wrestling. I grew up with wrestling in the 80s and 90s. I stopped doing it when I became an adult. So once I became an adult and had children, I stopped watching wrestling.
You became a wrestler.
I did take I did take my kids to watch wrestling, and they liked it, but it just kind of. It's nothing in this documentary makes me say, oh, other than there's like you said, there's a few things in there where you're going to be surprised. Other than that, if you watch wrestling, you've been following it for the last 40 years, you're going to know pretty much 80 to 85% of what has happened during McMahon's era.
But I think just like anything in a retrospective, which is maybe that's what kind of should have been painted as, more so than a scandalous McMahon thing. It was like the history of WWF. So I mean,
all right.
But it showed WCW and stuff too. So it's a great watch for me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, that's me, podcast you listen. The review of McMahon. We'll get about 8 views of this. Make sure you subscribe and check us out.
And that's if we post it immediately.
Yes, and we will post it immediately right now. So thanks for watching. Tune in, subscribe, and that's it. And follow us.